Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I thought in today's video I would tell you guys the 24 books I want to read in 2024. Mind you, there is a lot more than 24 books I want to read, but I think these are the ones that I really want to get to this year. And so I've compiled a list of the 24 books I want to read. I did include a lot of series in here, and the series, I've just counted them as one book. 13 of these books I already have like a physical copy of, and then the other 11 books are ones that I hope to either read on my Kindle or hope to buy sometime later this year. I've got quite like a good range of genres here, mostly fantasy romance, contemporary, general fiction, literary fiction. I've got a couple of classics. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first book I have on the list is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is a gothic fantasy, which is not something I've read before, but I just feel like I'm gonna really love this book. I can just sense it in my bones. So that's definitely something very soon on my list. I actually think I will get to it in March. So this will be read very soon, hopefully. Then the second book, the second one is also a series. And this is something I really want to read this year because everyone has been recommending it to me on my channel, and I think I will love it. And I might even do like a reading vlog with it. That is none other than The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Is it Holly Black? Holly Jackson? No, it's not Holly Jackson. Cruel Prince. Holly Black, yes. I really want to read the Cruel Prince series. Or is it called the Heir of Folk series? Something like that. I just think I'm gonna really love it, and I do definitely want to read that sometime soon. If you want to see me filming like a reading vlog with all 3 books, let me know, and I might pick them up from Amazon and do that for you guys because I really want to read the books as well. Then the third book on my list is, I actually got this from the library just the other week, and that is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I tried to read Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake about a year ago. I got like 300 pages into it. Loved the writing style, but the plot of it just kind of got a bit boring to me, so I did DNF it. But I've heard that this is a mix, a fusion between like a literary fiction and a romance. It has the writing of like a literary fiction, but apparently a really great romance, so we'll see. It's definitely something I want to read this year. I've seen a lot of booktubers give it a 5 star, so I just have to. I definitely want to get to that sometime this year. Then what is next on my list? Next on my list is a book that I've just seen all over booktube, book talk, just everywhere. That is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I don't even know what this book really is about. I just know that it's a romance, and I believe it has like magical realism involved. Like she lives in this apartment and there's a ghost that's there, and I think she has a relationship with the ghost. No. Honestly, I forgot how it goes. There's some sort of magical realism in this book, and everyone has given it a 5 star. Everyone's saying that it's like the best romance. It's so good, so heartfelt. And apparently the guy is a chef, so there's a lot of descriptions of food and things like that, and I love to read about food. Like I love descriptions of like when people are cooking their food and they tell you like the ingredients being used, how they're cooking it, etc. So because of that, I really want to read it. Right, then the next book on my list, I don't know how I haven't read this yet. I just think I'm too scared to read it because I don't want the series to be over for me, and that is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. It's the last Magnolia Parks and BJ book that is going to ever be made, and I am scared to read it because I just don't want that to be over. But I'm definitely gonna read it sometime this year. I love that series. I absolutely love Magnolia Parks. Like Jessa Hastings' writing, I don't know what it is. It just scratches something in my brain. It's just so beautiful, so lyrical, and I just find her characters just so interesting to read about. If you haven't heard of Magnolia Parks, it's very Gossip Girl, but like set in London, and I just love that series so much. Right, so next up in my list, it's quite a beast, and I'm gonna read this book slowly, maybe like over 1 month or 2. It is a classic. and it's translated from Russian to English, and it is a beast of a book. It's not even that big. I've probably read bigger books than this, but I think because it's a classic, it scares me. But anyway, it is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I think I spoke about this already on my channel, but I've heard that this is the best book ever written. It talks a lot about faith and what is right, what is wrong, humanity, good versus evil, what makes someone evil, just kind of touching on a lot of themes like that. And I've just heard it's such a good book. I really, really want to read this year. And I think I'll read maybe like 20 pages of it a day, because it's definitely a book that you want to engage with, but I think it might take some brain power. I don't know. Maybe not. I think just because it's a classic and like written in 1840s, translated from Russian to English, I hope the translation does it justice, because I've heard that this is the best book. Like, it's just incredible. So that's definitely something I'm going to be reading this year, and I'm so excited to read it. Next up on my list is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. It's been on my TBR for maybe, I think I got it in Christmas, so maybe 3 months, but that's on my physical TBR. It's been on my radar for probably a year, so I really need to read this book ASAP. I don't know much about it. I just know that it's about these two friends that kind of grew up together and they make a video game together. People have said that you should go into this book not knowing much about it, so I'm trying to avoid finding out too much about it, but that will definitely be read this year. What is next on my list? Ooh, next on my list is another series, and that is the Last Hours series by Cassandra Clare. Now, I just finished the Infernal Devices series, and I can't. I made a video, like a reading vlog of me reading all 3 books in the Infernal Devices series, and it's genuinely my favorite series of all time. Like, I am obsessed with it. It's so good. Please read it if you haven't. But basically, the Last Hour series is a spin-off series from the Infernal Devices. I think it's the children of the people from Infernal Devices, from my understanding. So I have to read it. And I've heard it's incredible as well. I really love Cassandra Clare's writing, and I just know I'm gonna love it. So that will definitely be read sometime this year. Next on my list is another series. It is Guild by Raven Kennedy. No, it's the Plated Prisoners series by Raven Kennedy. Sorry, Guild is the first book in that series. I actually have all 3 books in the mail at the moment. They should be here in the next couple of days. My fiance has kindly purchased them all for me. Shout out to my man. And I cannot wait to read them. I think it's also like a dark fae fantasy romance series, so I'm super excited for that. That's like definitely up my genre. Probably one of my favorite things to read, besides literary fictions. I toss and turn depending on my mood, but I'm really, really, really excited for that to come in the mail. What is next? It's a good one. It's a good one. Next on my list, oh, I love this book cover. It is Rouge by Moana Awad. Not Moana, just by Mona Awad. This is the author that wrote Bunny, and I loved Bunny. It is such a good book. Bunny gives me like similar vibes to Saltburn. I don't know if you've seen Saltburn, the movie, but it's just, the whole time you're reading this book, you're like, what the hell is going on? It's like a fever dream, but it's so good. And this one, I don't know much about it. All I know is that it's sort of, the themes of it is like obsession with youth and beauty, sort of similar to like The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's sort of like a discussion about the cult that is like the beauty industry and just the obsession that our generation has with youth and beauty. Not just our generation, I think every generation has, but I feel like ours is probably the worst. Yeah, just with obsessing with remaining beautiful and young and the male gaze and just sort of things like that. So I'm super intrigued to read this one. Okay. The other book I really want to read this year, which is a romance. Again, not my typical genre. I love fantasy romance, but just a romance by itself, not usually my thing. But I've heard such good things about this one, and I just want to see. The next book on my list is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I don't really know much about this book, if I'm honest with you. I've just heard that it's like such a cute romance. You will love the characters. And I've seen this author just circulating all over Book Talk and BookTube. Because I live in New Zealand, I think her books are like just becoming popular, I'm not sure. But New Zealand is very slow to like start getting books into our country. Like it always takes us like 6 months to get books that have been available in America for ages. I've seen none of her books in our bookshops yet, but I mean, I can get them off Amazon, to be honest. So maybe I'll just buy them off Amazon, but I've heard such good things about that book. And if you've read it, please let me know. Or if you've read any of these books, please let me know if you like them. Next on my list, again, another romance, which, like I said, not usually my genre, but when they have this much hype, I don't like to feel like I'm missing out. I get bad book FOMO. So I do want to see what the hype is all about. And that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I'm sure you've seen this book everywhere on your feed. It's super popular at the minute. And I just want to see. I just want to see what the hype is about. Like, is it really that good? I've seen so many people say like this is their favorite book, 5-star, etc. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. Next on my list is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I think this is Sylvia Plath's only novel that she's written. I definitely want to start dabbling into classics a bit more this year. The only classics I've ever read is The Great Gatsby and The Picture of Dorian Gray. And I loved those books, like so much. But sometimes classics intimidate me just because the writing can just be a little bit exhausting to read. Like it just takes a bit more brain power. I definitely want to read this one. It's nice and short and sweet. And all I know is that it's about this young woman in New York City just sort of trying to figure out like her identity and like societal expectations. It just seems like it's a book about a girl in her mid-20s trying to figure out her life. That's it. Very normal theme. I'm in my mid-20s trying to figure out my life, so definitely a good book to read. It is definitely a canon event where a woman reaches her mid-20s and decides to read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. So here I am. Ooh, this book has not come out yet, but I think it's going to come out in June or May or July. It is Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which is the sequel to Powerless. I read Powerless earlier this year and I loved it. It ended on such a cliffhanger and I just need to know what's going to happen. So I cannot wait for that to come out. And as soon as it comes out, I'm going to get my hands on that book and read it. It is a fantasy romance, by the way, if you haven't read it yet. And it's just so good. Like it just has everything you want from a fantasy romance. I think I rated it like a 4.5 stars. I really loved it. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Next on my list is a series. It is a series that I already read when I was like 15, 16, maybe 15, 16, about like 10 years ago, but I want to read it again. And that is the Harry Potter series. So definitely sometime this year, maybe in winter, which is going to be like around June for me, I'm going to read the entire Harry Potter series, which I'm so excited about. I love this series. I watch the movies like every single year. Like it's just such a comfort series for me. But I just want to read it and just kind of get the full experience. And then after I read the book, I can like watch the movie and sort of see what the differences are between the book and the movie and just like see what they missed out. So that's definitely going to happen sometime this year. Next on my list is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I'm currently reading A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman and I am loving his writing, like absolutely loving it. So I really want to pick up another book from this author. And I've heard that this one's really good. Same with Beartown. I've actually heard all of his books are really good. So maybe I'll just read all of his books this year. But something about his writing is just so like touching and it's moving. It's just very unforgettable. And I find myself just like underlining almost everything that he writes. It's so good. So I'll definitely be reading more of Frederick's books this year. Next is The Women Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. So there's 3 different stories in here from 3 different women. And it says in the first story, it's the process of aging. The second story, the theme of it is loneliness. And then in the third story, the theme of it is growing indifference of a loved one. So I don't know, it just seems like a very fascinating book. I don't know if this is like a memoir. Are these about like, is this a real story about real people? Guys, I don't know, but I really want to read this book. I picked it up when I was in New York and I've heard Jack Edwards and a lot of other people really love this book. Only like 250 pages, so it's a nice short book, but I feel like it's going to hurt my feelings and make me feel very sad for these characters. Next on my list is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I'm sure you've seen this book everywhere. It's so popular. It's now a TV show on Apple TV, and it's a 5-star book for many people. So again, I just want to see what the hype is about. If you can't tell already by all these books, is that, yeah, I get major book FOMO, and when a book is seriously like highly rated, I have to read it. Unless I think that I'm gonna hate it for some reason, but I am excited to read this one, and then I can watch the TV show. That's always really fun to do, is like when you read the book and watch the show, or the movie. So satisfying. So that will definitely be read this year. Ooh, next on my list is another book from Fyodor Dostoevsky, who wrote this book, and it is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I want to read this book because Jack Edwards, who's one of my favorite booktubers, he made this TikTok because he saw a post saying, "You think you know love until you've read White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky." So he immediately bought the book after seeing that post, read the book, loved it, raved about it. And then as soon as I saw that, I was like, ooh, I need to read this book. So that's definitely going to be read sometime this year. Okay, next on my list is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Dark Academia. I feel like I actually haven't read a Dark Academia book in quite some time. Yeah, it's been ages. So I'm super excited to sort of like dip my toes back in this genre. I do really enjoy this genre. It's very fun, super pretentious people. And I don't know, I just really, really like it. I think I've been waiting for it to be all cold and gloomy and wintry because it's been summer where I am, which is just not like Dark Academia vibes at all. You want it to be rainy and cold and dark. So that will definitely be read sometime this winter. Next is a series, and it's the only series from Sarah J Maas that I have not read yet, and that is Crescent City. So this is the first book in Crescent City. It's House of Earth and Blood, and I've had this book for a couple of years now. I don't know why I'm putting it off. I'm just scared that I'm not going to like it compared to her other books because it is an urban fantasy. And I don't really like urban fantasies. I don't like them to be set in current times with technology and like lots of profanity and swearing in them. It just doesn't sit right with me. I want my fantasy to be like set in the olden times. So I think that's why I'm scared about reading it. But I do love the way Sarah J Maas writes, and I love her characters, and I just think that I will love the characters, but maybe not the story as much. I don't know. I'm very apprehensive about this book, but I do really want to read it sometime this year. So I will get to it, I promise. Right. Only 3 more books. The next one I want to read is Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I read Binding 13 a couple of months ago, and I really, really enjoyed it, surprisingly. I didn't think I would. I don't know why. But I really want to read Keeping 13 and then also Redeeming 6 and Saving 6. I'm not sure the order. But basically, I want to read the entire Boys of Tommen series. It's just that they're so big. They're really long books, and you just have to kind of dedicate your time to them. I have to be in the mood for it, and I just haven't been in the mood yet. But once that mood strikes, I'm going to read Keeping 13. I already have it downloaded on my Kindle. So we'll see. Next on my list is something that will also be read very, very soon, in the next month. And that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is going to be read very soon, I promise, guys. I'm actually going to make a video reading it. And I think I will also be annotating it because I've heard the writing is so beautiful. They're in this war, sort of like imagine like World War I. And there are these rival journalists, I think working for different companies. And they write these letters to each other. But from my understanding, she is unaware that it's him writing the letter, but he knows that it's her writing these letters. And I've just heard that these letters are just so beautiful. Like, you know how like in the olden times, everything was just so romantic? Like, not everything, but just the way people spoke just had a lot more like meaning to it. I don't know, it just sounded more romantic. And I love stuff like this. I'm really, really excited to read this one. And then the last book on my list that I want to read, well, again, there's so many books I want to read, but the last one that I definitely want to read in 2024 is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I've read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by this author and I loved it. 5-star book for me. I really loved her writing. And I really want to read Vicious because I think it has a very cool concept. From my understanding, it's also dark academia. It's these two schoolboys, and they discover that if someone dies, like in an accident, that they gain this really cool superpower. And then I think they use that to their advantage and sort of like in a corrupt, evil way. Honestly, I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong. I've heard someone say the concept and I've just twisted it in my own way. But that is a book that I really want to read because it just sounds so interesting and I know that I love this author's writing. So yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Here's my pile of books. And yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and let me know if there's any kind of video you want me to make, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!